So, welcome to the LeakLess Living Open House. I am so excited to show you through everything that has to do with leakless living. Of course, as I mentioned, use the chat, ask any questions that you have because I'll answer them along the way. I'll also have an open time at the end of the session for you to ask your questions to. And I also just want you to have some fun during this. So open the chat box. Hopefully we can use it quite a bit to get some conversations going. And the reason why I host this live open house is for you to, again, it's not even really for you to make a decision. It's to just get clear on what you need so that you can make a decision. That's really all I want. Because I have talked to so many smart, driven women who have invested their limited time, energy, and money into these pelvic floor programs and didn't get any positive outcome from it. There wasn't any coaching or feedback, no accountability or community, and they really didn't do anything that looked beyond the pelvic floor muscles, which is seriously where the gold is at, you guys. And they weren't taught the essential components of a successful pelvic health program, which I have come up with what I believe and what I know from my clients' success are the essential components of a successful pelvic health program, which we're going to go over in a little bit. These people who are frustrated that their programs didn't work, they weren't taught anything that could actually lead to tangible results. And unfortunately, I hear these stories a lot. I speak with you guys. I hear what you've tried. And you know what? Maybe leakless living isn't for you. That's possible, and that's totally okay. But what I do know is that I can still offer you so much value and impact because based on what I know, what your desires are, I hear your voices, I read your comments. You want to stop wearing the expensive, smelly, uncomfortable pads. You want to be able to move and exercise however you want, whenever you want. You want to engage and play with your kids or your grandkids or your friends in sports and activities. You want to engage and play with your husband or your partner. You want to not be afraid to travel or to leave the house for a longer period of time, just in case you're not going to be near a bathroom. And I can't force you to come into the program. I'm just not into that. But what I can tell you is what you will need in order to make that wish list of things happen. So whether you decide to ever work with me inside of Leakless Living or not, at least you won't have to stay confused and overwhelmed with all of the options and information out there because there is so much. I likely have the same algorithm as you. I know all the things that are out there, and it can be really confusing as to who to listen to. And so you just keep investing in things or just letting time pass by, and that's not yielding you any results, which is so not cool. And I don't think you think it's cool either. So we're talking about your health here, your life, your relationships, your confidence and happiness. You don't get that time back. So let's keep moving forward. Let's get unstuck. That's why it's so important for you to know that what it is that you need when you decide to invest in something that's actually going to help you stop peeing your pants. Because whether you're aware of it or not, you're going to have to make an investment, whether it's with me or another program or just throwing time, energy, money, life, waiting for things to sort them out on their own. Those are all investments too. So the investment is going to be there. It's just making sure that it's the right one at the right time. So if you're with me, type yes in the chat if this is fair. Carol, hello. Just tell me if that's fair or not, just to figure out the lay of the land and figure out, if this investment is the right one at the right time for you. So that's what we're going to do today. I'm going to tell you all about leakless living, and I'll show you inside the program. This is being recorded, so the replay will be sent out either tonight or tomorrow, so you can go back and rewatch any bits and of the places that you'd like. Okay, so I'm so excited to walk you through this for so many reasons. All right, so if you're with me, can you just type in the chat if you can see my slides? I think you can, and I think you can hear my voice because I'm already seeing people respond in the chat. So welcome to the Leakless Living Open House. I am Lindsay Geddes, the founder of Leakless Living. And Leakless Living is the main program that I offer for busy women who want to radically reduce their bladder leaks naturally so they can move and exercise, play with their kids or their grandkids, travel, socialize, get sexy with their partners, laugh, cough, sneeze, all of these things without worrying about peeing their pants. Now, there are generally two different types of women who I work with inside of Leakless Living. One is that those where the leaking is the most predominant aspect of their issues. They hate the pads, they're scared of the stains and the smells of the leaks, they can't wear a bathing suit at the beach, they only wear black clothing so that the leaks or the pads, loose black clothing that so that they won't show through. And then the second type is that they may have some leaking. Maybe it's just when they laugh or cough or jump or sneeze, but they are ruled by their bossy bladders, as I call them. They need to run to the toilet super frequently throughout the day. They always feel like they need to pee. That need never really goes away. They might wake up multiple times in the night to pee. They're afraid to leave the house or to travel, especially if they don't know if there's going to be a toilet there, and they're always worried that they might not get to the bathroom on time. Actually, I guess there's three main people or types of people, because there's also those who have a combination of those two things. So right off the bat, if one of your questions was whether this program can fix your symptoms, you may have already have your answer right there. So if you're with me live, why don't you type in the chat, which one of those are you? Number one is that it's predominantly leaking that you're having. Number two is I always have to pee. The urgency is there. I am going really frequently. And number three is there's a combination of those two. I'd love to hear what type that you are, because regardless, one, two, or three, all of these types of women are successful in the Leakless Living program. So first off, I don't want you just to hear from me today. I need you to hear from others that have gone through or are going through this program. So here is a little testimonial, a little story from Carla. When I started this program, I was visiting the bathroom every 30 to 45 minutes. This is crazy, you guys. I hear this from you all the time. Now I can go for at least 2 hours. Actually, it was like 2 to 6 hours, but I'll leave this in her words here. This is a huge change for me. I used to plan all my outings where the nearest restroom was. I knew the location of every restaurant at my doctor's office, Whole Foods, and even Staples. But now I can run multiple errands without constantly worrying about finding a bathroom. Just the other day, I realized I had completed 3 errands without stopping for a bathroom break. This program has given me so much freedom and confidence. I feel like I'm reclaiming my life. This was huge for Carla. So there are so many of you that are, stuck inside. A lot of you are telling me I don't really leave the house anymore, or I get my partner or my friend to run the errands for me, especially if it's more than one stop, because you're nervous that you're not going to be near a bathroom. So thanks for sharing your story, Carla. Here is another little story from Tracy. I can't believe the progress that I've made with the program. This week, I tried skipping rope, something I had avoided for years due to the fear of leaking. I was ready for it to happen. She meant the leaking. But to my surprise, I didn't leak at all. It was a huge win for me. I felt like I could finally engage in activities with my kids without hesitation. Before, I just would have avoided such activities, but now I feel more confident and willing to try new things. The fear of leaking is still there, but it's no longer holding me back. This program has truly changed my perspective and given me hope for the future, which is so huge. This was so big for me, you guys. Like, fear of leaking when I was playing with my kids, that was a huge one. So what are we going to go over in this open house? So first of all, I'm going to go through the 3 roadblocks that stop you from ending bladder leaks. I want you to walk away from this session, even if you're not clicking the button to sign up at the end of the session, which I hope you are. But if you're not, at least there are some things that you'll learn so that you can actively take action towards your bladder leaks today. Number 2 is who is best suited for success in leakless living. I know you guys have this question. Can you help me? Will this help me? We're going to go through that. Number 3 is behind the scenes access to leakless living. I'm going to take you for a little tour. I think that's the most fun part. And then we're going to talk about that bonus that was in your emails and in the social media. Okay, so I think it's important for you to understand a little bit about my story so that you can figure out why I'm here with this program talking to you today. So why am I so passionate about overcoming bladder leaks and feeling like your own damn self again. I know there are a lot of programs out there. Like I said, I probably have the same algorithm. I know that it's hard to know who to follow and who's legitimate and who has the best program and where to put your investment in. So that's why I think it's important to know somebody's backstory and experience. So for me, I've been in the health and wellness industry my entire adult life. I started as a personal trainer in university as I was doing my undergrad. So I have a bachelor's degree in what was called back then human kinetics. It's now called kinesiology or exercise science. So essentially, I'm a science nerd. I was always very fascinated by the human body. So anytime I could go to that Body Worlds exhibit that travels across the country or anatomy labs, I love watching dancers and dance shows because I just love looking at the human body. So I quite literally have a bachelor's degree in exercise science. Through university and my physiotherapy degree, I was an on field sports trainer, which essentially, when you ever watch sports and somebody is injured on field and there's somebody that runs out and helps them out and assesses them, that's an on field sports trainer. So that was me. And then I also assessed the players on their practice times and things like that to see what their injuries were doing and whether they could continue playing. And I mostly did that for rugby, which if you know anything about rugby, you'll know that I saw a lot of injuries over a not very short, but over a relatively short period of time. And then, of course, I became a physical therapist, what we say physiotherapist here in Canada. Also, those of you in Australia and the UK, you'll know that as well. So yeah, very early in my career, in my physical therapy career, I took some courses and started studying under some of the huge powerhouse influencers in the international physical therapy world, Diane Lee and Dr. Linda Joy Lee. They use and I use a whole body, whole person approach, which essentially uses major detective work to see why you're having your symptoms that could be getting caused by areas of your body beyond where you get your symptoms, finding the true driver of your symptoms. So after I did that studying, I continued to be mentored by and work with LJ teaching and mentoring and helping out with courses to post-grad physios for many, many years, since about 2014. So I really feel like I have become a master detective of figuring out how everything is all connected and where to start when you're trying to make a change. Because sometimes it's not exactly where the symptoms are. And that is a foreshadow, if you didn't catch that, that sometimes leaking is not just about the bladder and the pelvic floor. So I was an orthopedic or a musculoskeletal physical therapist for many years before I got into pelvic health, which means I was always looking at connections and often treating far beyond the sources of pain. I treated it all: the back pain, the ankle sprains, the chronic pain, knee surgeries, hip surgeries, migraines, car accidents, carpal tunnel, neck pain, you name it, I've probably treated it. But I always loved to stay in the sports world. So I attended lots of CrossFit competitions, summer games, winter games, rugby championships, always just helping people out, whether they had a chronic injury or an acute injury, and putting it all together to make them perform their best. So it only made sense that I went on to get my clinical Pilates instructor certification, because I just felt and knew in my heart of hearts that we can really use movement as medicine. If you've never heard this term before, if we move beautifully, our body will automatically release some of the unhelpful, unwanted muscle and posture and movement strategies and start to switch on the helpful movement, posture, and muscle strategies. So we can actually use movement as medicine and get a real treatment and release effect, which I think is super cool and super powerful. But yeah, all beyond this, I was always a very social and active person. So if you follow me on social media, you'll see I try and get outside and onto the water as much as humanly possible: hiking, running, biking, swimming, paddleboarding. And I tried to keep all this up after I had my two big, beautiful babies. They were right back to back. If there's anybody else here who is a member of the 2 under 2 club, type me in the chat. I think we both know what that means. My life was really busy back then, and still now. And after that, I started to experience what was called normal postpartum leaking. The problem is that postpartum leaking never went away for me, and it actually got worse over time. So I started to pull back from the exercise. I was worried that maybe what I was doing was making the leaking worse because I would get the leaking while I was trying to do those things. So then I noticed that I wasn't really picking up and playing with my kids as much. I wasn't doing the things that made me feel like I wanted to. And I realized that I just couldn't show up as the mom that I wanted to be. I was the one sitting on the sidelines at the playgrounds and saying, "No, I can't do that with you." And it just, I get a little emotional about it because it just made me not feel like the mom that I wanted to be. So finally I said, "You know what? I can't do this anymore. I'm just going to do something about it." So I started to do my daily kegels, which actually made the leaking worse. Worse. What the heck? So then there I was, frustrated, embarrassed, and confused now, and embarrassed and ashamed because at that point, I was a physical therapist, a pelvic health physical therapist. Like, why couldn't I figure out where my leaking was coming from in my own body? So this is when I seriously doubled down on figuring out how to stop peeing my pants. So I dove right in and I spent a lot of time and a lot of effort and a lot of energy, which back then I did not have much of. If there was anything like a self care overdraft, I was seriously in the red. But after a lot of focusing and researching and trying things out, I finally figured it out on my own body and I needed to share it with others. So I used my years of clinical and personal experience to put together a method of working with women who also had bladder issues. And I started using it in the clinic with my clients. By this time, I was fully a pelvic floor physical therapist and was loving it. So I had a lot of clients that I could work through this methodology with. And then, of course, 2020 came around and shook things up. The whole world was locked down. Physical therapy clinics were fully closed. We were not allowed to treat people in person, and we had to move 100% online, which I didn't like, I'll be honest. And a lot of people didn't like because it's not like physical therapy was known as like a hands-off treatment option. But I'll admit, I really didn't like it at first. But seriously, this really forced me to use that whole body, whole person and movement knowledge and experience that I had because I couldn't put my hands on my clients. And this really showed me how powerful treating people this way was, the whole body approach, whole person approach. And people were actually getting better faster in a lot of the cases. So I knew I needed to share this methodology beyond clients that I could see in the clinic. And that's when I took the leap. I invested in myself. I invested in coaching. I set up my online program and I never looked back. And that's why I'm here with you today. So that's how I got here. This is why I created LeakLess Living, because I don't want you to have to go through all of those steps that I did, all of the stress, all of the frustration, the exhaustion, the overwhelm, the time, because you don't get that back. You cannot get that time back. Because back then, I just wanted someone to tell me exactly what to do. So that's what I'm offering to you. I put together the Leakless Living program to give you the literal step-by-step instructions to be able to get rid of bladder leaks. Who here would really like the step-by-step instructions? Just please tell me exactly what to do. Type me in the chat if that's you. Because this is all from the lens of over 16 years working with people in the health and wellness space. So that's a little bit about me and where Leakless Living came from. So these are some of the roadblocks that you might be bumping up against as you're trying to make the decision. So let's talk about roadblock number one. I've already read about or know so many things that could help. I just don't know where to start. And a lot of you are coming to me because you've either Dr. Googled, you've maybe heard something on TikTok, maybe your doctor said something in passing, and some of you may have actually already seen a pelvic floor physical therapist. But there is a big difference between knowing or having an idea of what you need to do and knowing how to do it. So type yes in the chat if this one is you. I've heard of a few different things. I don't know which one to do. I don't know where to start. Because if you don't know where to start, like which one of those things do you do first? This is really important because this is just going to keep you stuck. And I don't want you to stay stuck for one more minute because staying stuck sucks. Leakless living really takes away that guesswork, that trial and error, that decision freeze or analysis paralysis where you can't make a decision. It's literally a step-by-step program that cuts through all of the overwhelm, all of the noise, and tells you exactly what to do in which order in detail. Based on the science and my years of professional experience, and of course, my personal experience, I can't, you can't give yourself that clarity. I know that you're not a pelvic floor physical therapist. I know you're not a pelvic health exercise specialist, and that's okay because I am. So I can give that to you. I can give you that clarity. I can't tell you, I can tell you exactly where to start because all of that takes mental and emotional bandwidth that you would need to free up. So I'm going to do that for you. So if you'd like more mental and emotional bandwidth and physical energy, then this is for you for sure. Okay, roadblock number two, I can't afford it. I'm not prioritizing myself and investing in myself. So I hear you and I totally understand. Prioritizing yourself can take a big personal shift, a huge mindset shift, especially when we're so used to putting everyone else first. But again, I just want to offer another perspective to you, one that may actually just shift how you view this investment in yourself. And whether you ever decide to work with me inside of Leakless Living or not, which again, I hope you do, but whether you do or not, I hope this perspective change has value for you. Think about all the roles that you play in your life. You might be a mom, a partner, a professional, a friend. Each of these roles demands your time, your energy, and your care. And often as women, we give and we give until there's basically nothing left for ourselves. And we feel guilty even thinking about taking time or resources on our own well-being. But here's the thing. When you prioritize yourself, you're not just benefiting you. You're improving how you show up in all of those roles. You're improving how you show up to yourself. Imagine how much more you could give if you were feeling your best. If you weren't constantly worried about bladder leaks or where the toilet was, or if you have enough pads to last you for the trip that you're going on. Investing in yourself means investing in a life where you're more confident and more energetic and more present. So consider this. So how much do you spend on things that are like temporary, dinners, new outfits, clothes, coffee, that sort of thing? Now compare that to investing in your health, your comfort, your peace of mind. The benefits of leakless living are not just temporary fixes. They're long-lasting changes that can transform your daily life, your future life, your confidence. I know investing in yourself might feel uncomfortable or even selfish, but honestly, it's actually one of the most selfless things that you can do. Because when you're at your best, you can give your best to everybody else in your life. Whether you work with me or not, I really just hope that perspective shift helps you. Okay. Awesome. Okay, roadblock number three. I don't have enough time and I don't know how to balance a program with an already full plate. Type me in the chat if this one is you. Super busy, spinning your wheels, just trying to make it through the day. This one hits hard for me. Remember that overexhausted, overscheduled, overwhelmed mom. If there was such thing as that self-care overdraft, that was me in the red for sure. I was working and solo parenting for super long chunks of the year because my husband was traveling a lot at that time. And I know back then for me, and now I understand that life is incredibly busy, and finding time for something new can honestly feel really overwhelming. Firstly, just let me tell you that because I can emphasize this with you so well, I made sure that I designed the Leakless Living program to be doable, sustainable, and actually enjoyable, even if you're already super busy. So let me share a different perspective with you. Think about the things that consume your time and energy every day, whether it's work or volunteering, family, housework, childcare, driving, commuting, or, the countless other responsibilities that we have. These are all important. And it's easy to feel like there's no room for anything else. I get it. I was there. I still am there a lot of the time. But what if I tell you that by investing a little bit of time in yourself now, you could actually make all those other areas of your life easier and more enjoyable? The things that we do in leakless living, you likely are not going to need to keep doing for the rest of your life. So, investing a little bit of time now is going to make your current and future self have much more bandwidth and time and energy. Imagine not having to worry about the bladder leaks while you're at work or running errands or spending time with your family, doing all those roles that you need to do. Think about how much more confident that you would be, more comfortable you would feel, and how you could then positively impact every other aspect of your life. Leakless living is designed to fit into your busy schedule, not disrupt it. I have worked with a lot of seriously burnt out, busy women, whether they're working moms, stay at home moms, homeschooling moms, women or grandmothers taking care of their grandchildren, or people taking care of their aging parents, volunteering professional women at the height of their careers. The list could go on. But if they could do it, and even at the brink of burnout, could implement the things in leakless living and have success. If they could do it, I know that you could do it just fine. So I'll ask you this. As we move into what leakless living is all about and helping you determine if it's right for you, I want you to think about this. What is your big reason why? What is your big reason that you want to get rid of your bladder leaks? Take a second, let that hit, let that settle. What is your big reason why? Mine was that I needed to show up to be the mom that I wanted to be. I needed to feel like myself again. I think it's really important as you're making this decision to invest in leakless living to really think about, what do I want? What do I want for my life, for my work, for my relationships? And what are the things that I need to do in order to make that happen? I want you to think about that now. I really want you to feel that. Because if you don't feel that, then you're not going to make any moves towards it and you're just going to stay stuck. And I can't let you stay stuck because staying stuck sucks. Yes, Carol, not wanting to wear the pads anymore. Amen to that. Okay. So I wanted to tell you a little bit about who is best suited for success inside of leakless living as we make this decision together. So this program is designed to help you overcome bladder leaks and regain control over your life, essentially. But like any program, the key to success really comes down to certain qualities and attitudes. I want you to hear that again. Quality and attitudes. Because I want you to hear that it's not according to the level or amount of leaking or dysfunction that you had, or whether you've had surgery, how long you've had it, or whatever combination of things that makes you think that you're complicated. In my years of clinical experience successfully working with women with bladder leaks, I can tell you confidently that it doesn't involve any of those things. It is much more related to certain qualities and attitudes that gets people success. So what are they? First, that they're coachable. What does this mean? It means that they're open to guidance. They're willing to listen and ready to implement the things that we talk about. Sometimes, we can get stuck in our ways. I feel stuck in my ways a lot of the time. And we can believe that we already know what's best for us, or maybe we've tried something before and we're not willing to try it again because it didn't work the first time. Being coachable means that you're ready to trust the process, to take expert advice and to apply it to where you are at in your life. This program brings together years of professional experience and proven techniques, and being coachable will allow you to get the most out of that. So that's the number one. Next is it's crucial to be open to new approaches. So this program is unique and may introduce methods and ideas that are different from what you've tried before. As I was saying before, I really pride myself on being a detective of figuring out where bladder leaks is coming from. And I'm telling you, it is not just about the bladder and the pelvic floor. We need to look beyond that. So it's natural to be skeptical, especially if you've tried other solutions before without success. But being open to new approaches means that you're ready to embrace things that can have real, lasting change. Another vital trait is being consistent and committed. Achieving the results that you want does require a consistent effort. Do you need to have perfect A plus? I'm going to do like so many things every single day? No, absolutely not. There's not that much in the program anyway, but do you still need to keep putting one foot in front of the other and stay on track? Absolutely. It doesn't mean that you have to make huge changes overnight, but it does mean sticking to the plan and integrating the recommended practices into your daily or weekly life. Consistency is key. Commitment to the process and to your own health really is so, so essential. But don't worry, you're not alone in this, not even for a single second. I am with you every single step of the way. Being willing to prioritize self-care is another crucial attitude. As busy women, we often put ourselves last. But to truly succeed in leakless living, you need to make your health and well-being a priority. It's not about being selfish. It's about recognizing that when you take care of yourself, you're better equipped to taking care of everything and everyone else in your life. Prioritizing self-care means setting aside time for the program, focusing on your goals, and acknowledging that your health is worth the investment. Okay, the last one, being self-motivated. While you'll all have the guidance and support through the program, progress is also going to depend on your own motivation. Being self-motivated means recognizing that you have the power to make the changes that you want to see. This program provides the tools and the knowledge, but it really is up to you to make them happen, to put them into action. All right. I want you to hear another testimonial here. I never thought that I would be able to run again. Not only am I not leaking while running, I didn't get my foot pain anymore. That is the huge benefit of being the detective that I am. We look beyond the pelvis and we often start to see positive changes in other parts of our body and our life. That is not a guarantee or a promise, but it's a very common feedback that I get. I had no idea that my back pain was going to change, which is very related to pelvic floor dysfunction, or my foot pain in this client's case. And another one, so running to the restroom was taking over my life. I couldn't leave the house without going pee at least a few times. Now I can go to the gym, do my exercise class, and then leave to come home, all without needing to use the restroom. This is huge. This is huge for people. Imagine having to like sort out your whole day depending on where there's a bathroom. That's awesome. All right. Now, look, life is going to happen. So this one is maybe not so much of a happy story here. I had a hard week this week. I got sick when my kids were sick and coughed so much. The leaking that had been gone for weeks had come back. I would love to tell you that once you get rid of your leaking, it's like a light switch and you're never going to have another bladder symptom again in your life. But you know what? It just doesn't work like that. Sorry to be the first one to break it to you, but it just doesn't work like that. Because again, like what if you're cruising along and you haven't had a bladder symptom in forever, and then you slip and fall into the ice? I'm from Canada, so that happens in the wintertime. And you hurt your tailbone and you limp around and some of your leaking comes back. Or what if you, like this client, coughed so much during the week and some of the leaking came back? What if there's a huge, massive change at work and it's super, super stressful and you don't sleep for a month and some of your bladder symptoms, you get really sensitive and urgency and frequency starts to creep back? This is important. Think about this. When and if this happens to you, when you are alone, what do you think you're going to do? What would you do in response to that? Tell me in the chat. What do you think that you would do if you were ticking along and things were working really well and you had lots of success and then you had a little slip back? What do you think that you would do? How would you feel? I'll tell you what happens, because people tell me when they were alone what would happen. They give up. They shut down. They convince themselves that things aren't working and that, oh, here it comes again. I'm just going to live with that leaking forever. But when you're in a program that has inbuilt coaching and accountability and community, you're not alone. We'll tell you that this too shall pass. We'll redirect you and get you back on track. You have access to me to say, you know what? You probably don't need to do all of the work that you needed to get to that place. You may just need to do one or two things to get you back out of that little hiccup. We'll help you see past the pity party that is really easy to slide into and just be able to keep going. And without that community coaching and accountability, you're not going to have that. You're going to be in that pity party. Okay, let's dive into the program, LeakLess Living. Okay, I'm going to take you into the site and I will explain to you what is in the program. I'm going to show you the content hub. And if you have any questions along the way, just pop them into the chat. Okay. LeakLess Living. LeakLess Living is my 12-week methodology program, which is your ticket to bladder confidence. It is your ticket to freedom from those uncomfortable, smelly, expensive pads that Carol for sure doesn't want to wear anymore. Maybe the adult diapers that you have to wear during the day or at night. It's your ticket away from the fear of your next leak, your fear of not being near a toilet, the sitting out on the sidelines when all you want to do is move and exercise your body. And I can break it down into these 4 incredibly valuable components. There is lifetime access to an on-demand content hub. There is weekly on-demand self-release and exercise videos. There are 12 weeks of personalized coaching and 4 private leakless, number 4 is private leakless living online community. So what are these? The lifetime access to the on-demand content hub, which is unlimited access to a comprehensive library has step-by-step lessons, guides, and action tasks. So imagine just having this little treasure box of resources at your fingertips, available anytime, anywhere. It is web-based, so you sign in and you access it just like you would sign in to check your email. Inside, you'll find a library of step-by-step lessons that break it all down into easy-to-understand segments, ensuring that you know exactly what to do and why, taking out the guesswork. It is a combination of mostly videos, but there are some audio tracks as well if it doesn't make sense to have a video, but it's mostly videos for you to follow along. The videos also have audio options to listen to. So if you, like me, want to listen to them in the car and you don't want to use all your data while you're out away from your house, you can do that too. LeakLess Living clients love this because it means that they don't have to sit through wait lists to book multiple appointments with specialists and then commute to those clinics. If you tried to break down the program into what you would get in an in-clinic session, say with myself or another pelvic health physical therapist, which I don't think they're going to be covering any of this stuff. So let's just say if you wanted to break it down into one-on-one sessions with me, it would be way more sessions that would be feasible for any person to do in person. And then just being able to get on my schedule that many times would be impossible as well. Plus, you can go through the content at any time you need. I'm a morning person. My shifts when I work in the clinic, which I still do, are in the morning. There's a lot of people who can only come at evening, or maybe they're night owls and they want to do it on the weekends. So, whatever time is best for you, then you can access these things. It doesn't require you to book any time off work or get up at a time that you don't want to, or not be fresh at the time that your brain wants to learn. So, best of all this content is yours to keep. So, you can go back and revisit it and refresh your knowledge whenever you need to. And this really helps just ensure that you have lasting improvements to your bladder health, and you can go back and revisit it anytime. Whenever there's an update or addition to the content, you'll get access to that as well. So, that's the on-demand content hub. Which also includes weekly on-demand self-release and exercise videos. So these are high-quality videos featuring exercises and self-release techniques that require minimal to no equipment. So I give suggestions on easy to purchase equipment and alternative to things that you probably already have at home. So I wanted to make sure that it doesn't require much. And if there's a suggestion to use a piece of equipment, I literally say, you probably have this at home, use this instead. So you won't have to go out and buy a whole bunch of extra stuff after you've joined the program. And you absolutely don't need a gym membership to do this. Each exercise session is between 10 and 20 minutes and can easily be done at home. I do mine at home in my living room, which is not a very big living room and mostly covered with toys and snacks and stuff most of the time. And I can do it in there. So if you have a little space, even like a bedroom or a bed you could do it on, that's totally doable as well. You don't need extensive hour-long workouts in order to improve your bladder leaks. You also don't need to be laying around doing boring, ineffective kegels all day either. These videos describe each exercise in step by step so that you know exactly what you're doing. And if you're unsure for whatever reason, that's okay too. Just bring that exercise to me to the coaching call, to the weekly coaching call, and we can workshop it. Am I doing this right? Can you give me feedback? You can't get that from a one and done PDF download, a follow along YouTube video, or a pelvic floor app that you can't connect with an instructor. Don't forget, movement is my jam. I literally have a bachelor's degree in exercise science. So I love using movement as medicine, and I am really, really proud of the fun, progressive, and effective self-release and exercise sessions in the program that you'll have access to. Okay, what else? We've got the 12 weeks of personalized coaching. I mean, I think this one is pretty cool, as you can hear already. You get direct coaching from me, a pelvic health physical therapist, a clinical Pilates instructor, and health coach with over 16, I actually think it's over 17 years now. I had that anniversary recently of experience in the health and wellness space. That coaching really gives you that continued support and accountability during your journey in leakless living. This is where it's at, you guys. Personal coaching, it really truly is at the heart of the leakless living program. That really is what you're going to benefit from the most. It's not just a generic program. It means that it's tailored to your unique needs, your goals, your questions, your challenges. You can't get that with a downloadable PDF or an app or a YouTube channel that you watch things and never connect with a professional who created it. I'll be with you every single step of the way to provide guidance, answer questions, and adjust your plan as needed to make sure that you're on the right track. Honestly, that is the client's favorite aspect of the program because I go into a certain level in the lessons, and if you want more detail and more information, or if you want a workshop, we really get really deep in those sessions. Also, the group aspect of it is really exciting for people because sometimes you don't know that you have a question until you hear somebody else asking it. And also hearing, somebody else going through something, it makes you feel like you're not alone anymore. It's like, oh, okay, I thought that was just me, but somebody else is going through it as well. There's so much power in that. The coaching calls happen once a week, and if for some reason or another you can't make it, you can submit your question ahead of time. I'll answer it on the call, and all of the calls are recorded, and you get access to the replays. In fact, as you'll see in a few minutes, all of the coaching call replays are found right inside the program content hub, so you can easily find and watch them whenever you want to. And then we have the private LeakLess Living online community. So LeakLess Living has its own private Facebook group exclusive for program members. You may already be part of my free community online group, the Stress, Incontinence, and Bladder Leak Support for Women. If you're not, look up that title on Facebook because there's so many members in it. We're always answering questions and giving tips and tricks and ideas and resources. But the LeakLess Living program has its own private community. It's where you can connect with a supportive online community who's going through exactly what you're going through. You can get additional encouragement and accountability, keeping you moving forward. It's almost like having like a 24-hour help resource, because if you have any issues or questions outside of the coaching calls, post your questions there. People love to help each other out, especially when we know that we're going through the same thing. Having bladder issues really can be isolating. When you join the program, you become part of a private online community of women who are going through the same journey as you. It makes you feel not alone anymore. It's a safe space where you can share your experiences and celebrate your wins and find support during those challenging times. Okay. So how is LeakLess Living different? Actually, before I go into that, I would love to hear in the chat if you've tried another online program or an app or a downloadable. Can you pop into the chat? If you want to name it, you can. If you don't feel comfortable naming it, you can kind of describe it. I'd love to hear what you've tried. I love gathering that bit of information from people because I want to go in a little deeper to tell you how LeakLess Living is likely different from those. Firstly, I'll start with the personalized coaching, accountability, and community. So one size fits all downloadable programs or apps, they can't give you this. They are meant just for a reader to consume and do, nobody to ask questions with, nobody to troubleshoot with. The personalized coaching, the questions that you get answered from me and your peers, means that the program can be tailored to you. If something doesn't work for you, we can change it up. If you have questions about something, you can change it up. You can't get that from, a handout or a YouTube video that you follow along with. Looking beyond the pelvic floor, I think by now, even if you've only been listening or following me for a minute, you'll understand that I am not all for laying around doing boring kegel exercises. It just doesn't work that way. It's about way more than the pelvic floor. The bladder and pelvic floor do not live and work in isolation. They are physically, hormonally, emotionally, biomechanically, gravitationally connected to the rest of the body. So it is essential that we look beyond the pelvic floor if we are ever going to get anywhere in stopping bladder leaks. I'm not going to get into exactly what bladder leaks are and how the rest of the body can cause them. That's not what this session is about. But let me tell you, it is about way more than the pelvic floor. And if you are ignoring those things, that's probably why you're still peeing your pants. So that's why I design LeakLess Living, is so that I can incorporate all of these things. The looking beyond the pelvic floor, the personalized coaching, the accountability that you get from me, from your peers, the community that you get. And so that brings me to my core components of a successful pelvic health program. I want you to think back about what you've tried before. Okay, so I had you think about that. What have you tried before? And just tell me in the chat if what you tried before included all of these aspects, okay? So self-release beyond the pelvis. Many people don't realize that tension and restrictions in areas outside of the pelvis can significantly impact pelvic health. I have a ton of experience working in a whole body, whole person, connected way as being an orthopedic physiotherapist before I was a pelvic health physical therapist. That's why Leakless Living includes self-release and exercises for areas outside of the pelvis that significantly affect bladder and pelvic floor function. You need to look beyond that in order to have a good effect. Nervous system calming. The bladder, the pelvic floor muscles are huge barometers for stress, anxiety, trauma, and also the good stress and the bad stress. The bad stress, yes, it's easy to identify. That's, when we have negative events that are happening or a stressful event at work or a deadline or something like that. What about the good stress? I have visitors coming in from out of town. I have to drive my kids to 10 different places. I need to clean the house before so and so comes over. Those are all good stresses too. Leakless living incorporates strategies to calm the nervous system. There's things, they're optional. So they're optional things that you get to choose from because, one thing for one person may not be very palatable for another, but there's options like mindfulness or relaxation exercises, stress management techniques, breathing techniques to help break unhelpful brain body, mind body, or like emotion body connections. We also have pelvic floor muscle lengthening and pelvic floor muscle strengthening. It's so important to have both of those because what most people don't understand is that in order for a pelvic floor muscle to be strong, it needs to be able to fully relax as well. And most people that I assess in the clinic or even assess just verbally online shows signs of having an overactive pelvic floor muscles, even if they are leaking, which blows people's mind because it feels weak. They've heard that they're weak. But when we take a look at them in function, they're actually acting overactive, and overactive muscles will act like weak muscles. It's kind of like if you're already half contracted, you have nowhere else to go. If you went to your favorite department store, like Costco or something like that, you walk into the front door, you maybe put a little shopping cart in the crook of your elbow, and you start walking around and filling it up as you move throughout the store. It's getting heavier and heavier and heavier, and you're having to use your arm muscles to hold on to that. Then perhaps the last little section that you walk through, you're like, oh, little dumbbells. I want to try those out. And you like put your cart down and you try doing some bicep curls. Do you think you're going to be very strong in your biceps to be able to do that? Probably not, because they're probably fatigued because you've been contracting them the whole day at Costco. And they're probably already going to be half contracted. I won't get into the science, but they're not effective. And pelvic floor muscles are like that as well. And if any of y'all live in the world, you probably have asymmetrical or lopsided left-right pelvic floor muscles. And why do I know that? Because I know that we've all had ankle sprains, knee injuries, hip injuries, maybe falls on one side, or just postures that make us use one side of the body more than the other. Because when we've had injuries, particularly on one side of the lower body, so ankle, knee, foot, toe, hip, it will dictate where we put our body mass, like where we put our weight when we're upright and sitting, because we don't want to put weight on an injured area. And or it'll change how or compensate what muscles we use around there. And the pelvic floor muscles are awesome compensators for things like balance or pain or body weight on one side versus the other. So if any of y'all had an injury down there, you probably have lopsided pelvic floor muscles. And you need to take that into consideration when you have a pelvic floor program. Okay, pressure management. Pressure management is another critical element. Everyday activities like lifting, coughing, and even sitting can create pressure on the bladder and the pelvic floor. If I really want to take 20 seconds to break down where leaking comes from, if the pressure in and around the bladder is higher than the pressure closing the bladder, you're going to have leaking. If I filled up a water balloon and handed it to my son without tying a knot on it, as soon as we let go, the water's going to come leaking out because the pressure inside of the balloon was higher than the pressure closing the balloon. And so if we think about, well, what could be winning that pressure game? It could be that there is increased pressure in and around the bladder. And so pressure management is huge. One thing is that we want to make sure that the bladder is not sensitive or irritated, because that will make the bladder more pressurized and more higher pressure. But what about things like posture and breathing and movement strategies and our core muscles and our muscles that we use around the pelvis? All of these things need to be taken into consideration so that we can distribute that pressure more evenly, which is going to make us feel better in the rest of our body and have less leaking. Breathing optimization. I'm never going to tell you that you're breathing wrong, because if you're alive, then you're breathing right. But breathing optimization is often overlooked when it comes to pelvic health. We take about 20,000 breaths per day. And what if we are breathing in a way that is unhelpful? Or maybe we're not breathing. Maybe we're holding our breath without even knowing it. Or maybe we're purposely holding our breath. That could be irritating the bladder, not engaging the diaphragm or core the way that we want to, and making the pelvic floor muscles be more strained and less efficient than they need to be. And it could also be feeding into that ramped up nervous system that I talked about. You can see that this can be a huge influence on leaking. Breathing and the rib cage, the trunk, the thorax here, have been a huge part of my physical therapy practice for literally over a decade. So, of course, the program is going to include breathing exercises that not only help oxygenate your brain, hello, but also increase mobility of your trunk and spine, calm the nervous system and bladder, and encourage your diaphragm and pelvic floor muscles to work efficiently together, kind of like a little dance that they're supposed to. We need hip mobility and stability. Now, I didn't go into the details of this, but the anatomy of the pelvic floor is such that some of the pelvic floor muscles are also hip muscles, and some of the hip muscles are also pelvic floor muscles. So they literally share anatomy. But also, your hip and pelvic floor muscles are both really involved in balance, proprioception, which is how your brain and your body knows where you are in space. So am I walking uphill or downhill or on a slope? Am I about to fall? Is what I'm standing on stable or unstable? The pelvic floor muscles and hip muscles also really help us distribute what are called ground reaction forces. Again, this is not a science lesson, but when we step or jump or hop or put any force down onto the ground, that ground exerts a force back up, and we need to be able to do something with it. If we have like springs as legs, I'm envisioning it now. If we have springs as legs, that ground reaction force just gets distributed up that spring and nicely distributed throughout our body. If we have any stiffness or immobility or instability in the hip or the pelvic floor, it's kind of like now walking on a little stump or a peg leg. That pressure and that ground reaction force is just going to go thunk, 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 right, and kind of get bottlenecked into the pelvis and the pelvic floor, which is not going to be very helpful for leaking now, is it? So hip mobility and stability is huge. That needs to be part of your program. And then there's full body coordination exercises. The pelvic floor does not work in isolation. As in, like, when it turns on, it never turns on just by itself. It's part of a complex system which involves your whole body. So it doesn't matter to me if your pelvic floor is like perfectly functioning, but only when you're laying on your back and trying to do a kegel exercise, because that's just not how we live. We need to find and strengthen the link between the bladder, the pelvis, the pelvic floor, and the whole rest of the body in order for everything to work at its best. So this is how I've mindfully crafted the LeakLess Living program. It includes all of these essential components. So I want you to go back and then think about what you've tried before. Tell me in the chat if it included all of these things, or just tell me in the chat if it included any of these things or how many of these things. because these are the things that are essential in order to get results. So if you did not put in the chat that what you've tried before included all of these things in here, that's probably why you're still having leaking. That's probably why you're still peeing your pants. And it's hard to hear, but that's okay because I can give these to you. The LeakLess Living program involves all of these things that are essential for you to get rid of your bladder leaks. Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing because next we are going to take a look at the LeakLess Living program inside of the content tab. Okay, let's do this. Let's do this. Let's do this. I just love technology so much. Okay. So here we are. So here is what it looks like when you sign into the content hub. You're going to come into this page here. You can press on start program. It'll just walk you through each session on its own. But if you wanted to have a quick overview of all the different modules and all the different lessons, as you can see, there's lots of them. Look at all those. But what did I want to show you? Okay. I wanted to show you that there's 12 modules. I set this up so that you could do about one module per week. So you can go a little faster if you want. You can go a little slower if you want. But I set it up so that it's very doable to do about one per week. Okay, let's go to this one. So when you open this, just going to move my chat box over here. When it opens up, you'll see here, it's loading here. Yours will take less time to load because I'm streaming lots of different videos all at the same time. Here's your video, and I walk you through in this one. Walk you through how to set yourself up for success, what you need to gather, what you need to expect, and along with this, you'll see here, why don't you have a checklist? So if you access your checklist here, it's going to take you to literally a checklist that you can make sure that you are all set up for success. All right, so that's that setting up for success. There is a suggested equipment list. So I talked to you before about how I gave alternatives. So before you even start your exercises, it says, what we would suggest that you do. But of course, like every option has an alternate option of things that you will likely already have at home. And if you are the type of person who does want to buy some fancy new equipment, there's links that you can buy them. I am not an affiliate for any of them. I don't get a kickback from any of those. It's just suggestions. And I make sure that I gave lots of suggestions there. Okay, what else? There is some baseline. So let's go back to here. Go back to here. So I also go through some baseline testing. So baseline testing, such as a bladder diary or other self-tests, allows us to see exactly where you're at the beginning of your journey. I also get you to repeat this in the middle of the program and at the end of the program. So why do I do this? For one, it really helps highlight all of the different unhelpful things that are happening in your bladder, not just the leaking. Because sometimes we get really over-focused. They're like, okay, I have leaking. That's my only problem. But by doing this, I don't want to give people complexes, but by doing this, it highlights when there's other signs of unhelpful things going on. And it allows us to look beyond that one problem that we think that we have. And once we identify that, now we have a few different things that we're tracking. So this is something that you don't need to go to a clinic for. You can do it at home. I literally walk you through this, how to do it step by step. And then we repeat it halfway through the program. And then we also repeat it at the end. Why do we do this? Because the feedback that I get is that people need to know that it's working. I need to know that things are moving in the right direction. And what better way to actually see and know that this is changing than to see it on paper? Obviously, if you feel it in your body, that's great, but to see it on paper, to see it in these tests. Because I would love to tell you that on day 1, you have your leaking, on day 2, you start the program, and then on day 4, you have no leaking, off and on switch. That'd be pretty awesome, right? It just doesn't work like that. Generally speaking, what we see is that there is a decrease of symptoms over time until finally we're at our lowest or no symptoms. And the thing is that if we don't see or recognize that trend in the positive direction, in the wanted direction, sometimes we can get impatient and sometimes we can get frustrated because if it's still there, then I still have leaking, then I still have a problem. But what if your leaking is less? What if you have less other symptoms that you're not paying as much attention to? What if it's harder to elicit your leaking? All of these we're going to track with those baseline testing. All right. Let's go through another lesson. Frequency, urgency, and urge delay techniques. I have a whole lesson here with a action task to take you through how we're going to get rid of these, because this is a huge question that you guys have. So how do I stop peeing every couple of minutes? How do I stop having a strong urge where I have to run to the bathroom really quickly? How do I not pee on the way to the bathroom when that strong urge comes on? That is definitely in this program here. And we could talk about it in some of the coaching classes as well, coaching sessions as well. Okay, let's go back to here. What else do we have? What else did I want to show you? So there's unhelpful movement strategies. Also, let's take you to like the overactive pelvic floor. This one is a huge one, you guys. Overactive pelvic floor muscles are actually much more common in people who leak than what you may think. So I go through how that could be causing your leaking. What are we going to do about it? Signs and symptoms, what we're going to do about it, which is so super important. There's action tasks to do each week. This particular one has to do with box breathing. It tells you why you're doing it, tells you how to do it, how that's going to help leaking, how that's going to help the pelvic floor, which is also very important, which is great. Okay, so let's go back to what else? We go down here, there is a whole separate section. So in the modules, there is your self-release and exercise session for the week. But if you want to go to a module that has them all back to back to back, here they are here so that you can see them back to back. If you're nervous that you may need to modify things, either maybe you have limited mobility or you have arthritis, that sort of thing, I tell you how you can modify a lot of these things here. And then there's a whole other page of so many different modifications. Absolutely. It's just going to take a second to load here because I have so much bandwidth going with the Zoom. But all of these things, I take you through exactly how to modify things with props, with pillows, a bed, that sort of thing. I think my cat is even featured in one of these videos. But of course, if the modification you're looking for isn't on here, then bring your question to the coaching call. Absolutely. And then the last thing I wanted to show you is if you scroll down here, you'll also see the coaching call replays. So all the coaching call replays are going to be listed here. So if you missed one or you wanted to go back and re-listen to one or rewatch one, you can head back and rewatch them anytime you want to, which is so super valuable. And that way you don't have to be super crazy scribbling down notes and that sort of thing during your session. You can just sit back and relax and enjoy and then go back and listen to it whenever you want to. So that is Leakless Living. What do you think? Pretty cool, hey? We are so proud of what we offer inside of Leakless Living, and it just keeps getting better and better as I keep updating and evolving and adding content. But do you want to know what else makes it better? I'm going to tell you about the July and August bonus. So let me go back to this. I'm going to share my screen again. slideshow, play from current slide. Awesome. And then I'm going to go here. Perfect. Okay. Oh, before I go, another little feedback here. During a conversation with my neighbor about local break-ins, I experienced an unexpected urgency episode. This caught me off guard, but working with Lindsay helped me understand that this wasn't solely due to weak pelvic floor muscles, but rather my nervous system acting to stress. So this is another example of how if something like this happens and you're alone and you don't have any coaching access or community or accountability, you may actually think that this is a negative thing. However, this was actually a really positive experience for this client because it really highlighted to this client that her leaking and her urgency was not 100% about her pelvic floor and her bladder. Her major contributor was actually her nervous system and how her stress or anxiety was actually causing her leaking and her bladder issues. And so when this event happened, it really highlighted that because she hadn't had any leaking or urgency for quite some time. And she was ticking along. And then this stressful event happened and it brought back some of those things. She didn't leak and she did make it to the toilet on time, but it helped remind her like, oh, I needed to tap into those tools that I learned during Leakless Living in that moment. And she's done this since and has completely gotten rid of that urgency, which is awesome. Okay. Another huge win. So I was crouching to grab something out of the cabinet and I sneezed, allergies without leaking. I was thrilled. Now, this actually came in before this client was actually finished the program, and I call this the crouch and sneeze. If any of you know what I'm talking about, you're cleaning up after your kids, you're washing the floor, tying your shoe, and all of a sudden you sneeze, like that is a surefire way to have your leaking. But this client, before she even finished the program, she was able to do that without leaking, which was super exciting for her. Absolutely. Okay, finally, I'm going to go back to what I was talking about. So, July and August bonus for all of you who enroll into Leakless Living in the month of July or August, you're going to get the hot summer pricing, which is 25% off the regular Leakless Living pricing. Because I know summer can get really crazy and there's often more expenses for things like road trips or time off, trips to the ice cream shop, these sorts of things. I'm hoping that this little pricing promo can take the edge off and allow you to actually do all those things, feeling confident in your bladder and feel confident in the program. So that is our July and August bonus. So this is your next step. I'm going to suggest that you book a call, book your bladder leak assessment. I am going to put a link in the chat. Here we go here. I'll leave the screen up for those of you watching the replay. Book your call. Book your bladder leak assessment call. We can figure out what is causing your leaking, where your best next steps are. You can ask more details about the Leakless Living program. You can enroll right away to get that summer bonus, that summer promo offer. And if now is not the right time, that's cool. I'm not interested in pressuring you because I can't force you to come into the program. But before I hear and talk about what you're going through, I won't even know that you're a good fit. So this call is for that. Get more information, figure out where your leaking is leaking is from, and see if you're a good fit for the program. I need to be able to connect with you on this call, which is essentially an initial assessment, which I do every single day in the clinic with clients that I work with. And I need to be able to have that connection and hear about what's going on before I'll even be able to tell whether the program is right for you or not. And I'm super honest with people. I'm not going to invite you into the program if I feel like what I have to offer isn't the right approach. But of course, I'm going to tell you what you can do instead. Absolutely. So click on the link in the chat and book your call now. You need to step forward. You need to go back to that motivated person, that your big reason why. Let's just get it done. Once you've booked your call, come back here, let me know in the chat so that I can celebrate with you and just make sure that everything is going through all right. All right, so I'm just gonna scroll down the chat, see if there's any current questions. I'll ask now is a good time to ask questions. But I also have one more thing for you to think about. I want you to go back and think about your big reason why. I hope that when you're making this decision, that you're considering your big reason why. Because sometimes we can get bogged down with our thinking, our analytical brain, and we can shut down and walk all over our own needs, including our health. Because I just love it when my clients come to me and say they're back to their exercise classes. They ditched all their pads. They never thought that they could run again, but they are. They're having more sexy time with their partner because they're not afraid of an embarrassing moment. And that's what this is all about. You can achieve those results, but you need those skills. You need that knowledge and you need the steps to get there. So I want you to think back about that big reason why as you book your call, because that's what's going to drive you forward. You need to do this now. Take this offer. Even if you don't sign up during our call, just being able to get some clarity on what your next best steps are, why you're leaking. If it's not your bladder and your pelvic floor, what else could it be coming from? That's what I do on my bladder leak assessment. Let's run you through that and figure out why you're having your leaking. And that way you'll know what your next best steps are. Okay, so the other bonus that I have for you today is our smoothie guide. Let me just cut and paste this link into the chat here. So this is our 3 summer smoothie recipes to support bladder health. Look, again, I told you that it's not just about the pelvic floor being weak. There are lots of other things that can sensitize and irritate the bladder, and what we consume can be one of them. On the other hand, there are also things that we can consume that can help settle the bladder and improve bladder health and bowel health, which is very connected. A little bit is explained in the smoothie guide, plus like they're delicious. So please, please use. And also, if you're part of my Facebook community, post in there once you have tried one of these smoothie recipes, maybe even post a picture. Tell me how it tastes. I want to know if you're loving it, which is awesome. Okay. So again, I want to say thanks for joining me today. I'm going to leave this link up here for a little bit longer because your next step is to schedule a call, schedule your bladder leak assessment. Let's chat. Let's figure out where your leaking is coming from. I can answer any more questions that you have for me about the LeakLess Living program, and I can get you enrolled today so that you can get access to that July and August 25% summer pricing promo. Okay, I'm going to stick around for just a couple more minutes to see if there are any questions that come up in the chat. Otherwise, I hope this was really, really helpful for you, and I hope to chat with you on our bladder leak assessment call and talk to you soon. I'm just going to take a look at the chat. Nothing is coming up. Awesome. We'll see you soon. Take care.